so finishing off the second part. Okay. The next critical point is noon. Okay, here the sun has attained its highest position. The energy which began at sunrise has reached its culmination. Its position at birth represents power, achievement, authority, dignity, elevation, publicity, fame, and honor. Okay, so it is noon. Here the sun has attained its highest position. Okay, since that is where the sun has its highest position in the middle of the day, that is where the most, it's even the hottest during the day at that time. Okay, it is when the most influence upon the sun, or the influence from the sun upon the earth is most greatest. Okay, since the influence upon the earth is most greatest from the sun, whoever is born at this time is more likely to have, power, more likely to represent power, achievement, authority, dignity, elevation, publicity, fame, and honor. Okay, the third division is sunset, which represents the polar opposite of sunrise. These 2 points are a pair of balanced opposites and represent similar conditions. The fourth point is midnight. It represents seclusion, rest, the time when psychic and astral influences are strongest. Astronomically, the mass of the sun is stated as about 700 times that of all its planets put together. That is big. That is pretty massive. The zodiac, with all its infinite possibilities, is the path of the sun as seen from our Earth, and the planets are specialized centers of that energy, of which the sun is the source and fountainhead. The solar fluid is the ethereal atmosphere, or the ether, and is limited to the solar system. It is the medium for the transmission of the potencies distributed by the various planets, and holds in solution the basic elements of all life and thought. Remember how we were talking about this solar fluid or the ethereal atmosphere earlier? All the planets are moving through this ether. All living creatures are moving through this ether. All of us live and move and have our being within this solar ether. And as we speak, our words are being transmitted along this ether by the law of vibration. Okay, a natural law. Okay, a real thing. And this ether is the only possible fluid which is sufficiently subtle to carry the delicate vibrations which are constantly being broadcasted over the radio, and which penetrate iron, wood, steel, and every other barrier, and which are not limited by either space or time. Okay, so when you're listening to your radio, let's say you're in your car, and you're listening to Air One. Okay, that's my favorite radio station. You're listening to Air One. Okay, how do you think you were able to listen to that station from across the planet? They have a radio station which runs off of frequencies, runs off of vibrations. And when you're tuning in your radio, you're tuning in your antenna to 92.7 FM. That is your antenna tuning into receiving that specific vibration. Okay, and 92.7 being broadcasted is broadcasting all of its music, all the sound, all of the noise that it makes through that specific frequency. And as you turn your radio in tune with that frequency, you're able to hear that vibration or song in your own car. Okay, remember how he was comparing personal consciousness to that? Okay, personal consciousness, us, our soul, our spirit, our own individual spark of consciousness. We are only in tune with, or we only receive vibrations within the ether of which we are in tune with. There are millions of different vibrations and energy and information happening around us, but we are only receiving information that we are in tune with our own antenna. And what is this antenna? It is our brain, the most wonderful piece of mechanism of attachment, the thing that actually individualizes you from somebody else. Wow. Because all of this are not limited by either space nor time. Thus we find that not only the Sun, but Venus, Mars, Saturn, the Moon, and all of the other planets radiate their own peculiar characteristics. This influence in turn is reflected in the character of those who come under the influences of these vibrations. Is reflected in the character of those who come under the influence of these vibrations. And how do you come under the influence of these vibrations? By putting yourself receptive to these vibrations, by thinking the thoughts necessary to bring you in tune with these vibrations. And what would these thoughts be? You know, like, I am strong, I am powerful, I am a creator, you know. And as we are bringing ourselves in tune with these vibrations, we are pretty much bringing ourselves in tune with the planet, which releases that type of energy within our own life center. Wow. As the nature of the energy which the sun radiates is in accordance with the intrinsic nature, so the nature of vibrations sent out by the planets are in accordance with their intrinsic natures. Venus has long been regarded as the god of love. Consequently, the characteristics of those coming under her influences are affectionate, sympathetic, refined, and contented. Mars has long been known as the god of war, and his influence is therefore courageous, venturesome, aggressive, and fearless. The influence of the moon is reflective, receptive, and productive. Of Mercury, intellectual, accomplished, skillful, and clever. Of Jupiter, generous, philanthropic, moral, charitable, and sincere. Of Saturn, prudent, cautious, patient, and reserved. Of Uranus, original, ingenious, talented, and intuitive. Of Neptune, idealistic, mystical, inspirational, and peculiar. Each planet has its own rate of vibration, and its influence upon the Earth depends upon the angle which it forms. Certain angles causing the vibrations to be accelerated or diminished, magnified or retarded. These angles of planetary influences have been found to produce effects just as certain and definite as the various angles in chemistry. Basically what he's saying here, since there are these vibrations, all of them do exist in the ether. Some of them are colliding with each other. Some of them aren't in congruence with each other. Some of them aren't angled correctly with each other, which is what is causing the vibrations to be accelerated or diminished, magnified or retarded. And these angles of planetary influences have been found to produce effects just as certain and definite as the various angles in chemistry. Thus, the 7 planets give the 7 rays, or vibrations, or tunes. And the Earth is the organ upon which these notes are played, and the harmony or inharmony resulting therefrom is the influence which we call good or evil, as the effect is pleasing or the reverse. There are 7 nerve plexi located at intervals along the spinal cord. Along the spinal cord, your 7 nerve plexi located along your spinal cord. And these 7 nerve plexi are what is connected to your 7 gates, your 7 chakras, which are given by the 7 vibrations of the planet. Okay? Because, like he says right here, the 7 rays or vibrations coming from these planets all act upon the Earth, and we all come from the Earth. You know, and our physical bodies, our spirit comes, you know, just, man, there's so much to connect. There's so much to learn. And there are 7 nerve plexi located at intervals along the spinal cord. Your 7 chakras are located along your spinal cord. The plexi corresponds and acts as service stations for the 7 norms, the 7 governors. They are the sacral, Saturn, which is Muladhara. And there's prostatic, Jupiter. Wait, hold on. The sacral, Saturn, prostatic, Jupiter, epigastric or solar, Mars, cardiac, Sun, pharyngeal, Venus, laryngeal, Mercury, and cavernous, Moon. Okay. Sacral, Saturn, which would be your Muladhara. Okay, prostatic, which is Jupiter, which would be Svadhisthana, creative, epigastric or solar, which would be Mars, which would be your solar plexus, there's cardiac, or the sun, which would be your heart, cardiac muscle, your heart, your anahata chakra, your wellspring of compassion and love, the pharyngeal, which is Venus, which is from our what do you call it? Communicative center. Okay, laryngeal, Mercury, which would be mind, ajna, your third eye chakra, and cavernous moon. Cavernous moon, which is in turn supposed to be Sahasrara, your crown chakra, your soul. These are the media for the diffusion of the astral essences, from which they are transmitted by the sympathetic nervous system. Now remember what we learned, that the sympathetic nervous system is a nervous system that is corresponding or the organ of your subconscious mind. Okay, because there's the conscious mind, which is yourself, or your self-aware mind, which is responsible for taste, touch, sight, hearing, and smelling. And this conscious mind, the brain and the spinal cord is the organ of the conscious mind, and the solar plexus is the solar plexus with the sympathetic nervous system is the organ of your subconscious mind, and which is really, really cool, because to add this into it, when we learned in our NASM class that we consciously have the ability to move. Okay, we could consciously move our fingers, and that is in control of the skeletal muscle systems within your body. Okay, the skeletal muscle system is the muscle which controls the skeleton, and as you think of moving your phalanges or your fingers, okay, your conscious mind, your brain, is sending out electrical signals down your spinal cord. You have these specialized cells called motor units, and these motor units are attached to your sarcomeres, which is the functional unit of the muscle, which in turn shocks the sarcomeres, which them in turn have the actin and myosin sheets, which cause them to grab onto each other to contract. That is how your muscle contracts. I know there's a lot of science behind it, but just bear with me because we'll get through it. And we also learned that the sympathetic nervous system, which is the organ of the subconscious mind, okay, the sympathetic nervous system is the system of nerves which responds to things without you having to consciously do it. Like let's say, your instincts, for example, something falls off, like let's say your glass cup falls off the counter and you just instinctively grab it. Okay, that was an act of your sympathetic nervous system, an act of your subconscious mind. Okay, the powerhouse of what we are. Okay, and we learned that when, like, let's say you go to touch something hot, for example, okay, you automatically bring it up, okay, before you even go like, that was hot, okay. The fact, or the information of it already being hot already passed through the subconscious, okay, it already passed the sympathetic nervous system, and your subconscious automatically acted upon it and pulled your hand away before you even had the conscious ability to even, like, bring your hand away yourself, because you didn't even get to thinking the thoughts of it being hot before you actually pulled your arm back. Yeah, I know, it's a lot of science behind it. But that is what we're here to do, right? We're here to learn. We're here to grow. We're here to be who nobody's being. We're here to read what nobody's reading. We're here to learn what nobody is learning. So we could go out into the world and help create what nobody has created yet. That is the goal of all of us. Okay, let me read this one again. These are the media for the diffusion of the astral essences, from which they are transmitted by the sympathetic nervous system to the various cells of the body for transmutation and assimilation. And if you haven't been with us in the Master Key system that is also written by Charles F. Haanel, the sympathetic nervous system is the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is the one that has been likened to be the exact same as the universal, conscious, infinite mind. Okay, because it has the ability to create anything that we put our conscious will to create towards. It is the subconscious which gives us the ability to create it, okay? Because with thought that we form, with the power of our will to holding it steadily to that purpose, like, hey, this is what we want, okay? Our subconscious mind automatically takes that thought and moves on to creating it within us, helping us to create and take the necessary actions in order to create it in the external world. I know, there's a lot. A celestial impingement, therefore, never fails to express itself in the mental and physical plane of the ego. The solar orb is the principle of life. It radiates pure being only. It is therefore unity. Unity proceeds to diversity by a definite geometrical process. As the planets revolve around the sun, they radiate magnetism, the kind and character depending upon the nature of the planet. This magnetism in turn produces chemical and spiritual changes in accordance with the various combinations, which are formed as the planets move in their accustomed orbits in the zodiac. The combination of zinc and copper does not create electricity, they only bring to a point of individualism, that which exists everywhere. Likewise, the planets are merely gigantic batteries moving in space. Therefore, when Jupiter, which represents the principle of tin, comes into aspect with Venus, which represents the principle of copper, the vibrations which are produced in the celestial magnetism will be in accordance with the polarities which these planets possess at the time of such combinations. Basically, according to the nature of vibrations which these planets are releasing, will determine the principle of copper, the principle of tin, the principle of whatever material magnetic aspect that they are going to manifest. Which is very, very intriguing, because not only do we have 7 nerve plexi located at the 7 chakras, we also have 7 major endocrine glands within the body, okay? And these 7 endocrine glands in turn respond to the 7 vibrations of your nerve plexi, okay, releasing certain chemicals within the body, making you feel certain ways, okay? Remember, the body is nothing but chemical reactions, okay? When you go exercise and work out, your body, you automatically release the hormone serotonin, or the chemical serotonin, which is the happy molecule, the happy chemical, making you feel happier, or when doing the things that you love to do, it just brings you personal fulfillment, okay, making you feel better. The vibrations which are produced in the celestial magnetism will be in accordance with the polarities which these planets possess at the time of such combinations. Or when Saturn, which represents the principle of lead, and is therefore cold and negative, comes into a correlative aspect with the Sun, which represents the principle of gold, and is therefore dynamic and hot, there will be a vast disturbance in the vibratory influence of this inharmony, and this inharmony will affect the life force of all who come under the various influence of the influence of either of these heavenly bodies. Okay, now remember how we were just talking about earlier, how just as chemical reactions have specific lines of how they react together, so do the planetary vibrations have specific interactions within the ether. Some of them may correlate with each other, some of them may not. Okay, and if they don't correlate with each other, it's gonna build or create a lot of tension, a lot of inharmony. Okay, and as he is saying right here, under the influence of both Saturn, which is the principle of lead and is cold and negative, and comes into correlation with the Sun, which is the principle of gold and is dynamic and hot, these are polar opposites, okay? And there will be a vast disturbance in the vibratory influence, and this inharmony will affect the life force of all who come under the influence of either of these heavenly bodies. All impulses which manifest, and many more which do not manifest through the senses, find their origin, stimulus, and direction in planetary vibrations. Life as we know it originates, exists, and manifests through vibrations. As the planets transit along their orbits through the zodiac, they form vibratory aspects to which we respond. each person responding according to his ability, according to those which he is in tune with. The planetary vibrations of varying character are continually exerting influence of which we may be entirely unconscious. We find planetary action giving direction to metabolism, expanding, contracting, and otherwise changing the quality of bodily feelings, which induce attitudes of mind. And what have we learned about the attitude of mind? That it is a person's attitude towards life which will determine life's attitude towards that person. Okay, and what is attitude? What constitutes attitude? The way you think, the way you feel, the way you act. Pretty much the fundamental principles of your own inner world. The attitude determining the course or character of our acts, which in turn make up our environment. It must be remembered that we are not conscious of all our bodily reactions to stimuli, nor is every stimulus transformed into conscious thought. In fact, most of our bodily reactions are performed unconsciously through the subconscious. Remember, your hairs, your areoles, your these things, as he was saying, are what pick up on the vibrations of the ether. You know, you can't see a thought, but you can feel somebody's thoughts towards you. You know, you can, like, for example, you could feel when somebody's watching you. You know, like they're throwing all of their thought forms towards you, like hey, I'm watching you. You know, like not necessarily in that fashion, but you can feel their energy that they're sending towards you. You know, it's like remember how when we were talking, like our mind has like fingers, you know, roots. In whatever state of consciousness or whatever you're putting your attention and focus on, your mind fingers like goes to grab that, you know, grabs whatever you're putting your consciousness towards, you know, and you're putting your consciousness, you're putting your energy into that thing. And when you're putting your intention on somebody else, you know, somebody else is able to feel that energy which you are directing towards them. It's amazing. It's amazing. There is a direct relation between mind and matter. Because remember, mind is what forms and controls all of matter. It is our mind that we decide to grab this laugh rock and pick it up. Okay, it is our mind that gives life to this being, because our body itself is just matter. You know, it's nothing, it's dead. It is us that gives life to this, because us in our real state of being are spirits, souls, consciousness, life, and we're giving life to this life, you know. Oh man. And whatever is happening in this life is being expressed in the outer life. The higher branches of thought have their origin in the higher organs of the brain, and these are allied to the planets farthest from the sun, while the lower branches of thought, as of facts and things, domestic affairs, money, matters, etc., have their origin in the base of the brain, and these are allied in the planets nearest the sun. Oh wow. Hold on. The higher branches of thought have their origin in the higher organs of the brain. You know, like your pineal gland, like your pituitary gland. You know, these are the higher branches of your organs in the brain. You know, and these are allied to the planets farthest from the sun. You know, while the lower branches of thought, as of facts and things, domestic affairs, money matters, etc., you know, more of things not so intangible. So the intangible, in a way, he's saying, like, the tangible things that you worry about and put your focus on all have their structure in your brain in correspondence with the planets closest to the sun. Okay, and those vibrate, or those thoughts that you have that don't deal with money matters, that don't deal with reading books, that don't deal with grabbing this laugh rock, you know, all have their origin with thoughts outside of the inner planetary system, you know, the outer planets. Interesting. For the nearer the sun we get, the more active the planets are. Remember that heat, because because of the Earth spinning at the greatest rate of circumference, or greatest rate of motion at the equator, which generates most of the heat. Okay, that is a result of matter in motion causing ether under strain, because it's the rotation of the Earth causing the heat. This in turn, for the nearer the sun we get, the more active the planets are. This in turn is the opposite, okay? The planets moving quicker, or the planets having more matter in motion due to the greater ether under strain that they are under, you know, because the closer, or what was it, Mercury? Yeah, Mercury. Since Mercury is the closest to the sun, it rotates around the sun at its quickest, because of how much influence is being broadcasted on Mercury from the sun. And those persons who are influenced by them are correspondingly more active. Whether we deal with Venus as a celestial body or as a unifying principle of love, of Saturn as the essence of form or the sponsor of fear, of Mars as the element of energy or as the dynamic principle of courage, we must recognize and identify the identity of specific conditions, and grasp the comprehensive statement that the universal mind, though synthetic in essence, is manifested in infinite and complex forms. God is that which is unmanifest, and He is also that which is manifest. For all things that exist within God are all perfect expressions and projections of God, because God is one, and you and I are projections of this one. And here's a quote by Abdu'l-Baha, and here's what he says. He says, "Light is good in whatever lamp it is burning. A rose is beautiful in whatever garden it may bloom." Okay, hold on. Let me read this again in a more flow type style. Okay. Light is good in whatever lamp it is burning. A rose is beautiful in whatever garden it may bloom. A star has the same radiance if it shines from the east or west. As within, so without. As above, so below. A star has the same radiance as if it shined from the east or west. A star has the same radiance as it came from something on the outside, or if it was manifested as something from the inside. We are all stars bound to a body. And that is the end of Chapter 1 of Planetary Vibrations. And if you made it to the end of this video with me, thank you so much for watching. And thank you for taking this time to learn a little bit more about you, you know, because that is what we're here to do. We're here to learn about ourselves, because we know that the kingdom of heaven is within us. You know, the planet, or the kingdom of heaven is within us. The life within us is the life which creates all life outside of us. Okay? You are a creator. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next video.